Welcome on into the Wolverine.com podcast. Clayton Safey here with Chris Ballas and our newest member of our team, Ant Wright, former Michigan basketball player. You've probably seen him on Twitter. He's all over the place. He's going to be working with us here. Already did a couple film breakdowns for us over at the Wolverine.com. So super excited to have you, Ant.
Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Can't wait to see where this whole thing goes.
Yeah, I tell you what, we've got big plans for you, man. So we've been looking to expand our basketball coverage for a long time, and what better way than to get a Michigan man on board? One thing I want to ask you first off, man, because you played for John Beilein, and we're looking at the offense. And the first year that Juwan was here, he tweaked some things, but if there weren't some major differences, it seemed to me like he ran a lot of the stuff that Beilein did. What are some of the differences you've seen in the way that Juwan does things compared to John Beilein?
That's interesting. So when it comes to Juwan, he allows guys a lot more freedom. When it comes to Beilein, it was more of a strict motion with the set of rules. If a guy cuts a certain way, the whole play changes. When it comes to Juwan, I mean, you have Isaiah in a mid post, you have Isaiah in the corner, you have Isaiah bringing the ball up and pick and rolls. He didn't do that for Beilein, and he's much more of a player's coach. Juwan is, where he's gonna want guys to do more rather with like Beilein. He just wants you to do like your two best things all the time to like maximize the offense, and he's gonna put you in one of those five spots to help maximize the whole machine of the two-guard Beilein offense.
Yeah, it was interesting watching some of the motions, though, being so similar early, but he's really adapted. And clearly, the post offense is a staple of a Juwan Howard offense. And you look at a guy like Hunter Dickinson, and everything goes inside out. But he still wants shooters on the floor. I can imagine. I mean, no matter what, right? In this day and age, you have to have some shooters on the floor. Otherwise, your offense is going to bog down.
You have to. And that's kind of what's been stagnant with this team is that they don't really have the shooting right now. You know, you have guys who hit shots against Nebraska, but consistently throughout the year, that's only been Eli Brooks and Caleb Houston the last 4 games or so. So that's one thing that really needs to be consistent moving forward for Michigan to. I think it's going to be tough this year to win the Big Ten, but to get to like a top 4 seed in order to get into a manageable seed when it comes to the NCAA tournament to make a run. It's easier to make a run if you're in that 1 to 4 range than if you're in that 7 to 10 range.
Exactly. Clay, watching Purdue and Rutgers last night, I thought Purdue might sweep this thing, man. They have a couple, 2-3 losses, but that's a tough loss, and that's a big win for Rutgers, man, for their resume and stuff like that. Did you catch that game last night?
I did. I was
watching. Oh, Clay. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No, you're good. I watched it. I watched most of that game and then like kind of started watching again at the end. What a finish. One of the best finishes I've seen in a Big Ten game. Ron Harper Jr. with the buzzer beater. If you haven't seen it, go check that out. It's all over right now on social media. But that kind of told me too. I was talking up Purdue before that game. They were 14-point favorites and all that. It tells me that the Big Ten is going to be a little tougher than maybe we thought. I mean, Michigan looking a little better in the last week. Michigan State looks better than people thought they were going to be. Ant, what's your impressions of the Big Ten so far?
It's still a bit top heavy. I do think there's Purdue. They're on their own tier. I just think you saw where like Archie Miller had Izzo's number for a couple years and beat him like 3 or 4 times straight. You see right now with Brad Underwood and what he's been able to do against Juwan. And then you look at now Steve Peichel. He's won now 4 in a row against Matt Painter. Matt Painter, in my opinion, is one of the better coaches in the entire country. And I'm watching this game last night, and I think he did make some errors with like Ethan Morton taking the ball out. Young guys, the sophomore, freshman because of the COVID stuff, so he's like a freshman. But he's throwing to the corner when he's about to get trapped. I thought that was very, very weird. But I like the Big Ten more now than I did about 3 weeks ago, where I saw the league really, really struggle. Iowa does look tough. they played a very good Iowa State team. That Iowa State team is for real.
Yeah.
I watched them play last night for the first time, but Iowa's going to be good. Illinois is going to be good. I have a video coming out today on Alfonso Plummer, who's playing like the best guard in the entire Big Ten, and nobody's talking about him. Like he has been unreal. Like 24 a game on like 50, 100 shooting on like high volume. It's unreal what he's doing. I still think Indiana's tough. Indiana, they choked one against Q's, choked a big one against Wisconsin when they're up 18 and they lose the game. If you're up against Wisconsin by 18 points, that's like being up 40 because Wisconsin's so slow. I mean, low scoring game and you're up 18, 20 points in the second half, game should be over. Wisconsin's going to be tough. Ohio State beat Duke. So I'm like, okay, that 2 through like 7 spot is very interesting. Maryland hasn't figured it out yet. Northwestern looks a lot better. Penn State works hard, but you know, it's gonna be an interesting year for sure.
Yeah, it usually comes down to who wins on the road a little bit, right, Ant? And you look at Michigan State's win at Minnesota. Minnesota had been playing decent ball, but when I saw them play Michigan State, it looked like a Patino team, man. They were one-on-one jacking stuff up. They weren't running their offense. And Michigan State is well coached, obviously, and they defend well. But to me, I don't care if it's Nebraska or Penn State or Northwestern, as we saw Rutgers with Purdue. You get a road win in the Big Ten, you're doing something right, and that's going to be the difference in this league.
It's tough, though. You protect home, you win half your games on the road. You give yourself a shot. And you know, like you saw with like Minnesota, they were coming off of 2 road games. They beat Pitt, then they beat Mississippi State. Mississippi State team who has like Garrison Brooks from North Carolina, Molinar, who was an NBA prospect, Rocket Watts, who came from Mississippi State, from Michigan State, and they beat that team. And then you see them against Michigan State at home, they looked a bit overwhelmed. Yep. I just felt that whenever they made a run because it was like a fight or flight run. It wasn't a we're gonna win run. It's hey, let's not get embarrassed at home in our first Big Ten game type of run. So I think they're a little bit above their heads, and I think that's kind of what it's going to be like for Minnesota against Big Ten teams in the first half of the year. But they should settle in towards like end of January, February.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, it's interesting you said that about the Big Ten because they look terrible in the first couple of weeks, and then they go out and win the ACC Big Ten Challenge, and you're like, wow, well, you know, Michigan didn't hold up its end of the bargain, obviously, but they seem to be coming around. Clay, it's Purdue. Who's your number 2 in the Big Ten through the first several weeks here?
Like Ant said, it's kind of a revolving door. I was impressed with Wisconsin. You know, through a first few weeks. I mean, they weren't even a team that was pegged in some of those early brackets. Not that those matter, but like people coming into the year thought that was not going to be a tournament team potentially, and now they look that way. You know, Michigan would have been there, you know, if it weren't for 2 blowout losses. Michigan State might be right up there. They're playing one of the best, you know, some of the best defense in the country. It's going to be a tough league, I think, for those other teams. And I agree that Purdue is going to probably still win that league. You still watch them, and it's incredible. You know, they just cycle in the 2 bigs. They never play together, but they're always fresh. Travion Williams and Zach Edey, and then Jaden Ivey on the wing is lethal, and Sasha Stefanovic, you know, outstanding shooter. So I don't know. I think it's going to be a battle for 2, but I wouldn't rule out any of these teams coming in and winning it either. So.
No. And what was the toughest venue you had to play in on the road in the Big Ten when you played?
Toughest venue. Well, there's 3 of them. There's 3 of them. Indiana, Purdue, and Michigan State.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that.
I'm not sure what the order is, but I'd probably go Indiana 3rd, and then Purdue and Michigan State are just back and forth.
Yeah, Michigan State's
the way that the Purdue arena is set up, like they have all the students like all on the bench side. So like in huddles, it was just super hard to hear. The way that the floor was set up was super weird. It's not set up like that anymore. They made that change a few years ago, but I like places where they love their basketball, and that was definitely Purdue. Illinois is probably fourth,
Okay.
but definitely Purdue, Indiana, and Michigan State are all up there.
Yeah. What's the craziest thing you ever heard at Michigan State? Can you repeat it?
Oh man, if you guys
Was-
remember Reed Baker, so
yes.
Reed Baker, they found his girlfriend's like this is like back in like mid 2000s, right? It's like what, like
Yeah.
2007 or 8. So like MySpace was still a thing, kind of. So like they like found her like Facebook and MySpace, and they were saying some stuff for sure. They were
Wow.
like Alyssa's like had like a picture of her on like a poster. It was wild. I'm
Wow.
just like, yo, what is going on right now?
That's crossing the line, man. That's crazy. But you don't
Little
put
bit.
anything past those people, man. So
Yeah. Nothing
with
like
this team,
Amadou Ba, where someone comes on the court and
yeah,
Ba just
you,
like two hand shoves him.
you take matters into your own hands, man. Sometimes
Got
you
to.
have to. Yep.
Self-defense, man.
Your thoughts, guys, both of you. Clayton, the point guard. I look in, and this team seems to run better with Frankie Collins on the court at times because they're getting into the offense and they're moving the ball better. Your thoughts first, Clayton, and Ant. I want to hear what you think the role is for Devontae Jones and if he can be a point guard in this league. But Clay, we'll start with you.
Yeah, great question. I was going to ask Ant this as well. I had it written down. It's kind of the hot topic on the message board, Twitter. I mean, I think somebody put a poll on our message board who should be the point guard for this team. And it was like 90% Frankie Collins. It was probably a little bit of overreaction. I thought Devontae Jones looked a little bit better against Nebraska, although, I mean, everything was working there. And when shots are going down, the whole thing looks better. But, man, it's just something with the flow with Frankie Collins, his athleticism. I know he's made a couple, bad mistakes, but the more he gets stuff on film, the more he's going to be able to correct some of those. I think eventually this team's going to be in the hands of Frankie Collins if it's going to be at its best. Devontae Jones looks a little overwhelmed athletically at times. Has trouble bringing the ball up, it seems like, on some of these more athletic guys and the scouting report's out. They want to press him, make him uncomfortable. They can't get into the offense till about 20 seconds. But Ant, interested to get your thoughts as well.
Yeah. Here's what I'll say. Devontae, it doesn't seem like he's fully settled in yet, where like he truly knows what he's supposed to do. That's one. Two, I'll say that nothing against Frankie, but if Frankie becomes the guy, I just think that the ceiling of this team drops. They're going to need Devontae to be. I'm not saying be the guy who you were at Coastal. I'm just saying, just be the NBA prospect that you were supposed to be. You know what I mean? Be able to handle the rock, take care of the ball, don't make mental errors, be a senior. Because Frankie right now, if Frankie can play 10 to 15 minutes and come in, because when he comes in, they go faster, right? They go faster. The ball pops a bit. I like the change of speed, but teams are going to start guarding him like teams used to guard Tum Tum at Michigan State. Teams would literally I remember a screenshot where whether he had the ball or not, his man stayed in the middle of the paint and didn't respect any cut, any movement, nothing.
Yep.
And we're already talking about this team lacks spacing. If that's happening for 25 to 30 minutes a game, this doesn't just impact Frankie. This impacts your best player in Hunter. Like, how is he going to operate if your guy isn't even guarding you and he's over here just playing in front of Hunter the entire time? And that's what's kind of concerning with when I think about Frankie taking full control, playing the 25-30 a game, is because of the impact it's going to have on everybody else. But I do like him coming in and changing speed, 10 to 15 minutes a game, and teams won't be able to really key in on him and really make that drastic change of being way off of him due to him only playing, 10, 15-minute segments. Because I think because you can't play him late in close games. Because I believe he's like 5 for 16 from the line or 6 for 15. I'm not sure. But you're not going to be able to play him late either. So Devontae has to figure it out. He has to. If he doesn't, big detriment to this team.
Yeah.
Or else you got to go with Eli Brooks late going point and Caleb Houston at the 2. That's just, in my opinion, that's going to be your late squad if you're really desperate and Devontae's not on his game.
Yeah, that's a great point. And because Frankie, he's got to be a better shooter, period. And I go back to Xavier Simpson and how Michigan State played him, and they would sag on everything and dare him. Now, it burned him in the last game. I think he made 4 threes against Michigan State and Tom Izzo, but that was the exception. And he got better. And your hope with Frankie is that he's going to get better, progressively better, to be at least a decent shooter. But to your point about Devontae, I saw him at the G League Combine, and he did some things. He flat out outplayed Mike Smith head to head. Mike Smith was really impressed. And he said, man, this dude can play. And the problem is he's a little slower and, getting around picks. If you're running high pick and roll and stuff with him, they're chasing him and they're able to catch him. He's got to be more confident shooting the ball too, because they need another shooter out there. And this kid can shoot the ball. And that's what I think is lacking. When they go under screens, man, you're going to have to pull it and have that same kind of confidence. Like you said, you don't have to be the guy you were at Coastal, but you at least have to try to be that guy. You got to shoot that ball when they go under ball screens.
Yeah. Yeah. He does a little bit of everything. And I think at Coastal, he had to do everything. Like, he was their scorer, their rebounder, their assister, their defensive playmaker. And he had to take some gambles on the defensive end. That's why he was like 3rd in the country in steals. He doesn't need to do that at Michigan. The team is good. The team is very, very talented. He doesn't need to. He just needs to play within himself and kind of find his role. They're 6-3, so it's like 9 games in. It's crunch time. They have Minnesota next, and then they have about 5 games where I'm just like, you know what? Like, they should win those games for sure. They have Minnesota, Southern Utah, PFW, UCF, Rutgers. They have 5 games to really figure this out before they have a tough stretch with Michigan State, Purdue, Illinois, Maryland, Indiana. So it's going to get here quick. It's going to get here quick, and they got to figure it out.
It's a gauntlet. And Clay, when you talk about this team and Minnesota, I was thinking, okay, this could be, if they don't figure it out, Minnesota could be a tough game. When I saw Minnesota last night, I think it's a pretty good matchup for Michigan, to be honest with you. And your thoughts on the Gophers coming up?
Yeah, I mean, Ant, you mentioned earlier a couple of the teams they played. Not really tough competition until they played Michigan State. And Chris, you said it kind of looked a little overwhelmed, a little uncomfortable playing at that level. They got a lot of transfers. 4 out of their 5 starters are transfers. A lot of them from mid-major type of schools. One of them, Vanderbilt, Minnesota, College of Charleston, back to Minnesota. So a lot of kind of journeymen like that aren't, these Big Ten type of guys that have really played well. I give Curry credit for battling injuries throughout his career, but he's 6'9". I think Hunter Dickinson's going to be able to match up pretty well there. They're probably still figuring some things out as well under Ben Johnson, first-year head coach. So I think Michigan probably a 8 to 10 point favorite when the line comes out tomorrow, and I think they'll probably be able to kind of get that done and maybe cover that spread.
How encouraged are you, Ant, by what you've seen in the last couple of games from Michigan? It seems like at least they're figuring some things out, and they're playing with the desire that was lacking, frankly, in a couple of those big games. Arizona and North Carolina, you hate to say it looked like they quit, but they certainly weren't playing as hard as Juwan Howard wanted them to.
For sure. They've played about a game and a half where they really popped the ball around and they really played well and shot the ball well and played as a group and as a team. I just hope that it's just a coincidence that that's just when Musa wasn't playing. Because I love Musa. He brings so much defensively with his energy. And I just hope when he comes back, that continues. And that's like my one concern right now with them is that they're they're doing this in this little mini stretch, without him on the court, where it's really Hunter. If it's not Hunter, then they go small with Brandon Johns. Um, I just hope that it's they're able to keep that up moving forward. But yeah, Minnesota's got 13 new faces this year. I've never seen that before.
No.
13 new faces, and 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 Curry had to be like talked into coming back in like June or July. So that was nuts. But they have big guards. They have big guards in Peyton Willis, Luke Lowy, EJ Stevens. Like these are big guards, like 6'3", 6'4". They don't have any small guys. No small guys on that team. So I'm gonna be interested to see if Eli Brooks, Devontae, and Frankie can really hold their own. But yeah, they're kind of small on the inside. Hunter should feast. He should feast between what's his name? Between Curry and then the Stephen F. Austin transfer, Charlie Daniels. I mean, Hunter should go to work. They're going to double. They don't have a choice. But Michigan's got to make them pay, just like they made Nebraska pay pretty much every single time.
Yeah, Nebraska was leaving shooters, man. I could have had a cup of coffee, and between the time, I mean, there were some times there that they were so wide open, they were almost too open. When you start thinking about it and you have time to set. So, but you're right. If Caleb Houston shoots like that, and Devontae Jones got to stay out of foul trouble too. That's been a big deal for him. He's got to be able to stay on the floor. So, but this is a game. Yeah, I see Michigan. Like you said, if the ball doesn't stick, and when Moose is on the floor, sometimes the ball sticks a little bit too. So we expect him back. I think we'll find out more today when we get Sadi Washington here shortly. But it's a matter too of putting the pieces together and the fits, right, and figure out which lineups, because Beilein always played 7 guys, maybe 8 sometimes, and he would stick with that group. Juwan's got so many to choose from that it's a little bit tougher here, right, to figure out who to play with who and who plays well with who. And when your point to Minnesota, they're kind of like the Michigan State football of college basketball this year with all the transfers, and so they're still kind of learning too. But to me, that's the big thing, is finding the 5 to 7 guys that really play well together, and then going with your bread and butter.
You have to. You have to. I mean, having elite depth. People are like, "Oh man, we're so deep." I'm like, you can only play 5.
Right.
You can only play 5. 1, 2. You don't want to play 12. Because you play 12, nobody really gets a sweat.
Right.
Nobody really is able to really like lock into the game. And you need your best players playing about 30 plus. Then you need your middle players playing about mid-low 20s, and then your back end 7, 8, 9 guys playing like mid-low teens, So yeah, I'm with you there.
Yep.
Last thing I had for you, Ant, was we talk about this stretch coming up, with kind of lesser competition. I think it's a great opportunity for Michigan to, as you said, figure some things out. Figure out how they're going to play. Made some strides the last 2 games, but talk to us about what that is like when you're playing kind of some lesser competition. Is it a really good opportunity to kind of do that? And then, does that make you better going into, let's say, a Michigan State game against one of the tougher defenses in the country? Or, is it better to be kind of thrown into the fire maybe and you figure things out against tougher? Because, this time of year, every team plays a different schedule, so it's kind of hard to peg where everybody's at.
Yeah. What I'll say is it means a lot when you win. It means a lot when you win. Playing 4 good teams and going 3-1 is a lot better than playing like 4 top 10 teams and going like 0-4. Like, even if you play them well, like you want to win the games. You want to understand how it is to close out games. Understand how it is to be able to find a rotation. Maybe you don't win by 30 or 40, but you win by 20 or 25. You can sacrifice a 10 to 15 points if this rotation that you just found is going to help you in a month against Purdue or whoever you end up playing. I think winning matters. And you're going to play elite teams eventually. but winning with your guys, there's nothing better than that. There's no better teacher than winning with your guys and winning the right way. Like this Nebraska game that just happened, what was it? What, a 35-point drubbing? Like over 100 points. That was a Pinnacle Arena record. Like, dude, like that game probably means more to them than any win this year. Even though Nebraska's not even close to the best team that they played, I think that game matters because you're 1-0 in the Big Ten. Bryce McGowan's is an NBA player, and they had him on lock. He was like 2 for 9 or 2 for 10. And they executed. They haven't executed very well this year. They've been real lax this year with their cuts, but I think they were very, very crisp, very, very crisp. And winning games and winning the right way, seeing the shot go in is more important than any competition that you're trying to face. Because it just builds positive momentum. You know,
No.
It builds positive momentum for sure.
Definitely. Yeah, it's kind of my theory with Oklahoma football. They don't play anyone in the Big 12 in the regular season, but they throw it all over teams. And they get in the playoff. They lose like 60-40, but they're still able to put up points against good competition because they know what they're supposed to do against some lesser competition. So yeah, that's kind of an interesting theory there. Chris, anything else before we kind of close it out? This has been great with Ant here. First time we'll be back weekly, and obviously his video analysis before games and after. His video breakdown of the Nebraska game was fantastic. So
yeah, just glad to finally have you on board, Ant, man. Been watching you for a long time, and just great to have you part of the team, buddy. Really appreciate you being here.
For sure. Thank you.